Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mind Split Cafe. And Matt, today we have our other partner in the med school Mind Split Cafe on, Dr. Foti.
Dr. Foti, what's going on?
Good to see you both. See, I even got the med ed background. Look at me. Look at me.
Yeah,
Ready to
and I
go.
got the
Yeah,
memo to wear black, so let's do it,
That's right.
man.
That's
Yeah,
right. We're a band.
My Chemical
I,
Romance. And like
I
you
like
said off
that.
air, like that's
Yeah,
given the fact that what we're going to talk about today, like it's kind of par for the course, right? My Chemical Romance. So,
it is. That's actually pretty solid right there. And Dr. Foti, I wish I had put my background on. I didn't even notice that till just now.
I take the time to make these things, and that's all right.
yeah.
That's all right.
Well, I look at my view, like I'm good where I'm at. So yeah.
Yeah, no
Um,
That's
kidding.
right.
So let's talk about 7OH. Like I know Chris, you specifically said you wanted to ask a certain question to kind of start off the episode. So let's hear it. I'm curious to know what that question is.
Yeah, so it's pretty basic, but I think it's going to open up the floodgates on other questions and kind of get the conversation rolling. And can you, Dr. Foti, explain what 7-OH is, which for other people that don't know, it's 7-hydroxymetragenine. So what is it, how it interacts with the brain, and can you compare it to other opiates and opiate-like substances? I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah. So 7-hydroxymetragenine, like you mentioned, is actually one of the products or breakdown products of metragina, which is that leaf uh that
Kratom.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
So that leaf extract, metragina, which is also known as kratom, right? And many chemicals in our body, when we ingest them, they go through they don't always just stay the way they are. They just oftentimes go through different chemical reactions, often in the liver, for example, and get broken down to one or many different other chemicals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And through research and science and all these things, we found that one of the byproducts of all these chemical reactions that happen in the liver, um, what we call enzymatic reactions, develops this byproduct called 7-hydroxymetragenine, right? And it's found that that's actually it's the byproduct of concern and what we're going to talk about. And the reason being is it because it binds to the same receptors that opiates bind to. So there's several different receptors, but the specific one that causes, analgesia, right? So brings down pain, but also has all those dangerous side effects of, slowing your breathing down and can cause respiratory depression, withdrawal, dependence, and all those other dangerous things, just like opiates do, right? Because they bind to the same receptor. And it binds, so chemicals bind in different ways. So they either fully bind and activate a receptor or they partially do so. And this chemical partially activates it, but it's been found through research and whatnot that 7-hydroxymetragenine not only binds to that opiate receptor, the mu opioid receptor, but it's far more potent than many opiates. I think it was found to be 10 to 40 times more potent than even morphine, right? So
Wow.
that's 7-hydroxymetragenine, and I'll get more into it. I don't want to say more than that for now, but yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
So, and when you and I could be completely wrong here, but I think I might be on par with what it is. But so when someone ingests heroin or injects it, however the method of using it in the liver, it breaks down into morphine, correct? So when you take a UA, it comes up as morphine or something like that. And when you ingest kratom or kratom, one of the byproducts that gets broken down in the liver and comes out is 7-hydroxy. Did I understand that properly?
That's how the 7-hydroxymetragenine works. I'm not 100% sure about the heroin chemical reactions and exactly what it breaks down to, but they are, very strong opiates, and that's how the parallel is here, right? And that's the concern, being that once that was discovered, not only is it in itself far more potent than even something like morphine, like you mentioned, but now it's being extracted, synthesized into a synthetic form, and even amplified even more in its
Mm.
concentration. Yeah,
Jeez.
God,
yeah,
that sounds addictive.
Yes, that's exactly what I was just about to say. So it's
yeah,
just as addictive as any other opiates or opioids out on the market, whether it be
mhm.
pharmaceutical or street, correct?
Exactly. Right. But it's binding to the same receptors, right? And so that's why, kind of news headline for those who may not know, the FDA is now pushing for it to be on the what's called the Schedule One list of controlled substances. That is the most restrictive list of chemicals, right? So on that list is heroin, LSD, all those chemicals that have no medical use at all, right? As that stated, be, and only have harmful effects, right? So
Mm.
they're pushing for it to be on that list.
It's
Wow.
interesting. And I know I just kind of saw that conference or whatever you want to call it with the FDA, the director of the FDA, kind of
Hmm.
pushing or urging the DEA to schedule it.
Hmm.
Um, so, in your thoughts, and Matt, even jump in with this one too. Why would it be beneficial to schedule 7-OH? And if it has the same effects as an opiate, why doesn't it, or why is it considered not to have any medical use, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's potency, right?
Okay.
So it's far too potent um, to be something that's not regulated, right? You're talking 10 to 40 times more potent than morphine, right?
Jeez.
That's dangerous, right? Like I
Yeah.
mentioned, one of the more dangerous effects of opiates is that respiratory depression. It could stop your breathing, right? So you're talking about, something that potent, that the addiction potential, the withdrawal potential, all the different things, right? Um, that is why it's so dangerous. And if you read the press release by the FDA, it's not the kratom leaf extract that they're speaking about. So that might be a misnomer, I'm not sure, among out there. It's specifically the concentrated forms of 7-OH. That is what is being targeted and being pushed to, the DEA to say, hey, this needs to go on the Schedule One list. So that's why it should be on that list because of how potent and dangerous it is.
Mm.
And is it, and I'm not sure, I know there's not a whole lot known on 7-OH, that there's, preliminary types of research being done. But do you know if it's Narcan resistant when it comes to being a CNS depressant? So, like, with opiates or fentanyl or heroin, morphine, you take too much, you start to nod off, you stop breathing. Narcan can be administered and bring you out of that and actually throw you into withdrawals, but it'll bring you back alive and up and breathing again. Now, does 7-OH have that same ability, or is it Narcan resistant?
I haven't read specifically yet about its resistance to Narcan or not. However, you have to think, just thinking about this, understanding the science behind it. If it's that potent, right? So Narcan's trying to kind of knock it off of its receptors, stop its effects and all that stuff, right? So if it's that potent, right? I can imagine it would take a lot of Narcan to try to reverse those effects, right?
Mm.
Again, being 10 to 40 times more potent than morphine.
Yeah.
It's that would be pretty I mean you if someone obviously, I mean that's the route to try to treat, opiate overdose, obviously, but I'm sure that would make it quite difficult to reverse. I don't know the specifics on that though.
Yeah, no, I mean that definitely makes sense. And when you say potent, and this is just me, like it's not an actual question, but potency goes towards a couple things, and I may be wrong on this, but binding power as well, and then the effects, how potent the effects are, but it's also more binding to the receptors than other opiates as well, right? So that actually kind of plays in line with what you're saying about needing more Narcan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, right. So binding capacity, an affinity for the receptor, right? So how much it likes to bind to the receptor, and then its downstream effects, especially, of course. Yeah, pretty dangerous.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's kind of wild how all this was made in a lab off of something that could be found
Synthesized
in a gas station and just anywhere pretty much.
over
You
the
throw a
counter.
quarter in the air. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's no like what baffles me is that it's so not prevalent but accessible. And then
Yeah.
you're like you're like Dr. Foti, you're talking to us about how the potency is, and and the fact that I could get that with a bag of chips and a tank of
Mhm.
gas and a car wash, and
Yeah.
it hooks me for, and it does, like just crazy, just it'll send me down a spiral. Like that's insane that it's that accessible, especially if it's going to be a class one. Like I've got to
Mhm.
show an ID to get like cough syrup, at like
Yeah.
Walgreens, and
Mhm.
now I can get this in a gas station when I buy a car wash and a tank of gas. Like it's insane.
Yeah, and from my understanding, they started actually raising the alarm bells back in 2016 on this, but not a lot of science was available. The research wasn't really there as much. So
Yeah.
there was some pushback. Apparently like 60 members of Congress signed a letter saying like against this push initially. But again, the science wasn't there. Now, from 2018 onward, once research and evidence kept coming out about this, understanding how it binds these receptors, all the mechanistic pathways, how potent it actually is,
Yeah.
now there's the only pushback that's really coming from it are, certain organizations that are supporters of, kratom and its
The
extracts.
lobbyists,
But
pretty much. The lobbyists.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I don't
Well,
see
let
the
me
DEA pushing back.
so okay, so I'm curious. Like, I mean, I've done, I don't want to say my fair share of illicit drugs, right? But I do like a gummy or a bong hit every once in a while, right? But what kind of sensation are we talking about from this over the counter gas station 10, 20 times more powerful than morphine? What kind of sensation is this high of 7-OH?
Good question.
That's a great question. I haven't read anecdotally too many experiences on that, but you have to imagine again, it's going to be pretty equivalent to like pretty strong opiates out there, right? If it's that potent, so it's going to be similar to that. But because it's so potent, I mean, I'm more worried about the fact that it could kill you, right? And
Yeah.
stop your breathing. I mean, that is concerning in and of itself.
Do you think, I mean,
Yeah.
it's been around since 2016, you said, right? Or possibly even be before that. But
Before you.
do you think that if going unchecked, you know, or unregulated, do you think that we are looking at a epidemic like Purdue Pharma, the Sackler family, like when that all happened? Is this the precursor of a big event like that?
It's funny you say that, Matt, because that was literally what the FDA said, right? Was we need to stop
Heard.
the next opioid epidemic, and it would come in the form of 7-OH if we don't schedule it now, right? I think if it gets on that Schedule 1 list and we're really aggressive with our regulation and restriction, we should hopefully be able to avoid that. But this has the potential to be the next opiate epidemic for sure.
And the Sackler
So
family paid out billions, tens of billions of dollars.
they're still paying it
They're
out. Those
still
opiate
paying it.
abatement, yeah, those
They
opiate
just had
abatement
another
funds.
another judgment that they came out and that Purdue Pharma is liable for. Like it's one of those things where kind of get your shit together, or otherwise we're going to be kind of the same walking zombies that
Yeah.
the opioid epidemic created a few years ago, or a couple
Mhm.
So
decades ago.
and I want to touch on that question that Dr. Foti just answered. And I mean, as some of you may know, or Matt and Dr. Foti, I work in the substance use field, and a lot of people are contributing 7-OH to the third and or fourth wave of the opiate epidemic. Because at first there was heroin, and then there was the um, Oxycontin slash fentanyl. So you can count that one and one or it together. But now this one is now ruining people's lives. Like there's people out there that are losing jobs, losing family members, stealing for it, just like it is fentanyl or heroin that you get it off the street. So I 100%, and some of the colleagues that I work with in the field do say that 7-OH is contributing to the next wave
Wow.
of the opioid epidemic.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've heard, Chris, kind of in your field? Because to be quite honest, I may be a physician, but you're far closer to this than I am in your work, right? I'm a medical educator, right? So I'm kind of out of practice at the moment. So what are you hearing, right? You're in the front lines essentially. So what are you hearing?
So I actually am hearing quite a bit about it. I know people are trying to check into inpatient treatment centers. I know people are trying to find some sort of help when it comes to this. Suboxone. I know a lot of people are leaning on Suboxone or buprenorphine to get through the withdrawals and even help be on maybe on a therapeutic dose as they work through their addiction. But from what I'm seeing and hearing within the Northern Virginia Northeast area, I'm sure it's kind of the same around the United States, period. But it's pretty bad. Like people are losing jobs. They're going homeless for it because they're not paying their bills. Some people are catching cases because they're trying to break into smoke shops and steal it. Like the other day down like 15, 20 minutes from where I live, there was a break-in at a smoke shop, and that's all they took was the 7-OH products. Everything else they didn't touch. They just took 7-OH. And it's something that is tearing families apart.
Mm.
It is ruining people's lives, and it's literally doing exactly what fentanyl just did to millions of people as well. And it's kind of a difficult thing when it comes to treatment. So I wouldn't say not treatment because again, it works off the same receptors as fentanyl and heroin and morphine. So the same tools that are used with those drugs can be used with this drugs like buprenorphine, methadone, cognitive behavioral therapy, things like that. But it's so new that a lot of treatment centers don't know how to run with it and help
Mm-hmm.
people. And it's a specialized drug test. You have to send it to a lab, and just a regular 12 panel drug test cannot test for it. So a lot of people are going to the hospital saying, I'm in withdrawals, this is happening, this is what I'm taking, and they can't test for it right away. So they don't know if this person's just trying to divert buprenorphine back onto the streets or use it as a recreational drug, or if they really do need it. So there's a lot of like mix-ups and missteps with it because it is so new, and I mean, understandably so. It's kind of hard to treat something that you don't know or haven't seen or has just came up.
Yeah.
So are people able to get treatment though for this right now? I mean, for those watching who may know someone or they themselves are looking for help, I mean, uh, is there, what's the answer? Where can they get that help?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's treatment centers. I mean, specifically, without saying the one that I work for, just for purposes, um, it can be done. I know buprenorphine is being used for medication assisted treatment. There's a couple ways of doing that. Medication assisted treatment, you can
Mm-hmm.
utilize buprenorphine as a tool to curb withdrawals and do a rapid taper from 7 to 10 days, get them off of it and back onto their life. Or you can use buprenorphine as a Suboxone buprenorphine as a maintenance tool to where you curb the withdrawals and then you get on a therapeutic dose of it, and start rebuilding your life. And buprenorphine
Hmm.
allows you to do that because it gets rid of withdrawals, it gets rid of the cravings. And while you're not craving and you're not in withdrawals, you can actually focus on repairing the trauma, or working through the trauma that caused you to lead into addiction, or whatever led you into addiction. Addiction is just a symptom of something much greater. So when you're on medication assisted treatment, it allows you to focus on those things because you're not craving, you're not going
Yeah.
through withdrawals. So yeah, I mean, medication assisted treatment clinics are helping a lot of people out. Inpatient treatment centers like a level 3.5 or 3.7 that has some sort of medical detox with it are able to help people out. Um, it just kind of really honestly depends on where you're at, because a lot of rural towns might not understand how to work through this just
Yeah.
yet. Some of the
Yep.
bigger metropolitan cities and areas, they are dealing with it firsthand. So they know how to work through it, and they have providers that have been through this or even studied this. So yeah, there's absolutely ways of getting help. I mean, if to answer what Dr. Foti said, if anyone listening to this is struggling, send us a message. We'll be able to direct you in the right place no matter what state you're in. We'll be able to find some sort of contact for you to get help for
Yep.
this.
Yep. Yep.
Well, to stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll have to see if the DEA puts it on the Schedule One
Been a-
list.
yeah.
And
Yeah. You
so,
gotta you gotta pay attention. Yep. You definitely do.
Dr. Foti, I have another question for you, and then Matt, if you have some questions or any thoughts on it, we can run with it. But this is a burning question in my head, and it was before we even did this episode. So, if 7-OH were to be banned, what kind of impact, positive or negative, do you think will happen with public health, especially with the people that are currently using it or addicted to it?
Hmm. I mean, obviously there's the concern for withdrawal, right? Once you remove access to something, right? Um, so I imagine once it's already out there that this is likely going to happen, right? So, those that are using it, hopefully, would can get those resources to start being able to deal with it now before it's off the shelves, right? So I think obviously that's the concern, but there is a solution, like you mentioned, right? There's treatment centers out there. So I'm sure the DEA has been doing this for a very long time, and I'm sure they have a way of kind of not only putting these on scheduled lists, but alerting the public and making sure that they get the proper help and resources that they need as it gets quickly removed off shelves. But
Mm.
that's obviously where we're going to be at.
Yeah. And I don't want to speak this into existence, but it's something going back to what Matt said with the Sackler family. When that Oxycontin epidemic happened and just everyone was getting prescribed Oxycontin for one reason or another, everyone was on it. Everyone was, whether they were using it for a specific reason, a medical reason, or just using it to use it, and then it got taken from them, and there started to be regulations and doctors being looked at for prescribing too much, and
Mm-hmm.
that script was taken from them. What happened? People went straight to the streets, started getting heroin and eventually fentanyl, and that caused the
Mm-hmm.
next epidemic of fentanyl.
Mm.
So unfortunately, it's very possible that people that are on 7-OH right now, it's going to be taken from them, and they're
And
going
they're
to
gonna
go back
find
to the
something else.
streets.
Yep.
Exactly. They're going to go back to the streets and pop up another epidemic or another wave of fentanyl or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Or even the street dealers might be able to get the 7-OH illegally and use it as a filler in the heroin, just like people
Yep.
are doing with fentanyl.
It's a very important point. And I think that all right, obviously the big picture here is that if something is this dangerous, like Matt was saying earlier, it shouldn't be easy access. I go into a gas station and get that and a bag of chips, right? So, that has to be dealt with once the DEA, reviews the science and the research, right? But not only are you removing it easy access, but you're putting a spotlight on it. You're putting a spotlight on the issue. That's so it's not just about access or not. It's about putting a spotlight on the issue, and the issue isn't in and of itself just 7OH. It's an opioid and epidemic and drug prices in and of itself. So I'm sure, again, like you mentioned, it's the DA, I'm sure, is aware of that concern, and they'll have to, it's something they're gonna have to closely monitor. But that's a very important point that, I didn't immediately think about. But yeah, it's going to be a concern.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning, and I feel like there needs to be something that is put in place so people don't go straight to the streets, so they don't feel like death. Because we know alcohol use disorder and benzos, when people withdraw from them, it can become deadly. But when people withdraw from opiates, you essentially just want to die because of how bad you feel. So anything will be done to make sure you don't feel bad in that
Yeah.
situation. So I feel like something needs to be put in place before this ban happens, or it could be detrimental to public health. And I mean, I'm not sure what can be done, but there definitely needs to be something put in place because the ban is coming. I wholeheartedly believe that the ban is coming, and it may be coming quicker than we believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think something from the federal government at least needs to be put in place to where people can access help as soon as this ban comes in effect, or even before.
Well, speaking of, and I think this has been a really great episode, but speaking of fiends, and withdrawals, I don't want anybody to have any withdrawals, but we've got to come to the end of our episode. So I know you're going to be fiending for next week's episode. Do not have any withdrawals, but we appreciate you guys joining us this week and listening to Dr. Foti give his remarkable knowledge on 7OH. Chris, you blow me away all the time with your knowledge and your passion for mental health, mental wellness, and substance abuse. So thank you both for being on the show this week. And until then, guys, we'll see you soon, Mind Splitters.
See you next week.